What's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be going over my top 5 games of 2021. So without any further ado, let's get started. Returnal is a PS5 exclusive developed by Housemarque, and it's my first roguelike game ever. If you don't know what a roguelike is, it's essentially a dungeon crawler with procedurally generated levels, and when you die, you start from the very beginning. Now I know that probably scared some people off, but this game is truly magical. You play as Celine, who crash lands on the planet Atropos. At the beginning of every run, you start with only a pistol, and as you make your way through the procedurally generated rooms, you'll pick up new weapons, find parasites, and come across chests. Parasites are a double-edged sword because they provide a positive and a negative effect. Inside chests, you'll find many things such as items, weapons, and even perks. Throughout your run, you'll also find malignant items and chests. When you come across one of these, you'll have the opportunity to take it or leave it. If you decide to take it, you'll have a very low or very high possibility of causing a malfunction to Celine's suit. A malfunction causes a negative effect for Celine's suit, and it comes in many forms such as reducing the repair efficiency for her suit. But don't worry, you can get rid of these malfunctions by performing certain tasks. The story isn't something that is straightforward. To engage with it, you'll have to walk up to this 20th century house or by picking up logs from Celine's previous cycle. I don't want to spoil anything, so the only thing I'll say about this is that it's not what makes this game special. I'm not saying by any means that this story is bad, because it's actually good and intriguing, but the gameplay is what makes this game my top 5 games of this year. Housemarque is known for their chaotic arcade shooters, and this game is no exception. This game is hard, so don't beat yourself up if you keep dying. There is a learning curve, and once you get the hang of things, you won't want to put down this game. As I mentioned before, every new run you start off with only a pistol, and as you proceed, you'll find new and unique weapons. Thanks to the haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers of the DualSense controller, this uniqueness is amplified. To zoom in, you'll have to pull the L2 trigger, but only halfway. And with the aid of the DualSense, there'll be resistance indicating you've hit that halfway point. If you were to pull the trigger fully down, you'll engage in an alt firing mode that will differ depending on what loadout is with the gun. Just to give you a sense of what the DualSense is doing with the haptics, I recorded the noises that it makes. Alright guys, so here I have this gun called the Spit Maw. It's a type of shotgun in this game, and I want you to listen to two things. There's going to be the bullet leaving the gun, that's going to sound like boom. And then there's going to be a secondary noise specific to this gun that sounds kind of like... I know it sounds weird, but that's exactly what it sounds like. So let's hear the bullet leaving. So that secondary noise that you're hearing, if you look at the gun is emitting a green light. And that's what that secondary noise is for. So I'll shoot again. Also want you to listen to the alt firing mode for this gun. And lastly, the tether. Other than the guns feeling unique, they look it as well. They really fit into the alien world theme. Speaking about theme, they really hit the nail on the head with this one. When it comes to the music, the atmosphere, the enemies, the guns, everything melds together perfectly and it really feels like you're on an alien planet. Personally, when it comes to music, it's the deciding factor of whether or not I feel like I'm in this world or I'm controlling a character in a video game world. And I'm happy to say I feel like I'm a part of this world. I highly recommend playing this game with a good set of headphones. The 3D audio in this game is immaculate, and if you don't play this game with headphones, I feel like you're missing half the experience. As for the biomes in this game, each one is drastically different. For spoiler reasons, I won't be showing them all, but just know that there are multiple of them. If any of this interests you, go out and get this game, because I'm telling you, you're gonna have a blast with it. Next up is Kena Bridge of Spirits. This is an action-adventure game with a little bit of platforming. It's developed by Ember Lab, who are an indie studio. They're best known for their animation work, and it shows. By the time I rolled credits, I wanted a mini animated series. The game is gorgeous and the colors are vibrant. This is their first game and it's exclusive to PlayStation. You could get it either on PS4 or PS5. You're Kena, a spirit guide who comes across an abandoned village while making her way to the mountain shrine. You're accompanied by a growing team of rot. The rot are these little black puffballs that keep balance by decomposing dead elements. I will admit the beginning hours of this game are a little bit boring and a little shallow in terms of gameplay. You're going to be doing the same basic 4-hit combos and throwing in a heavy attack here and there throughout the entire game. But once you do start unlocking abilities in the skill tree, things do end up opening up, but just a little. The skill tree isn't that big. You also do end up getting a bow and arrow, which helps with variety in combat. Now you're probably thinking, how can this game be in my top 5 games of this year if I'm saying all these negative things? Well, because 1, it's an extremely endearing game. 2, once it picks up, it hits. And 3, it doesn't overstay its welcome. Like I said, this is a very short game. It's about 10 hours long, which is a perfect length for what they've created. There are some side quests, but the game is fairly linear. Even though this game looks charming, it's actually pretty hard. I wouldn't say it's as hard as a Souls game, but it's around that level. Luckily for those who need to, you can lower the difficulty level. If you're looking for a shorter game and a nostalgic trip back to the PS2 era of games, this one's for you. Next up on my list is Tales of Arise. Now I've been a huge fan of the Tales of series for a very long time now. Tales of Symphonia was my first game that I played, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Tales of Arise is a JRPG from Bandai Namco, and it's the latest installment of the Tales of series. It's a fairly long game with plenty to do, so don't expect to finish this game over the weekend. To give you a quick overview of the story, there are 2 planets, one called Rena, the other called Dana. And for 300 years, Rena has ruled over Dana, enslaving their people. You're Alphen, a Danan slave who feels no pain and has no memory of his past. You come across Shion, who is a Renin, and on the run from her own people for reasons unknown. Anyone who touches her feels excruciating pain. As you progress in the story, you'll meet new party members who are beautifully written and truly unique. The battle system is by far the best in the series. It's very fluid, flashy, and easy to pick up. Each character has their own role in battle. For example, Alphen is a swordsman who fights in close quarter combat. Shion uses her gun from long distance and is also a healer. Like in most JRPGs, each character has their own specific skill tree. As I said before, this game is pretty long. I spent over 60 hours before rolling credits because of doing side missions, finding secret dungeons, exploring, and fighting optional bosses. Tales of Arise is the first game in the series where I can finally say it has AAA quality. They really put a lot of detail into the world, and it's the game that's going to put the Tales of series on the map. So if you're looking for a game to get lost in, look no further. If you want a more in-depth look of this game, take a look at my videos that I've made previously. I'll link them in the description below. Ratchet & Clank is yet another PS5 exclusive on my list, and it's made by Insomniac Games. If you're anything like me, you've never played the previous titles, but I'm telling you now, it isn't an issue. Obviously, if you have played them, you have more of an attachment to this game, but if you haven't, don't worry. Actually, I did play the 2016 Ratchet & Clank, which is free on PS5 if you have a PlayStation subscription. Again, it's not necessary, but it was a nice way to get a feel for the world and characters. Just to go over the story real quick, there's a festival to celebrate Ratchet & Clank for the numerous times they've saved the world. Dr. Nefarious shows up and steals the Dimensionator. A dimension gets created where Ratchet, Clank, and Nefarious fall into it, and where Dr. Nefarious is known as Emperor Nefarious. Ratchet and Clank get separated, but Rivet, who is making her debut, finds Clank, and they both work together to stop Nefarious from ruling the world. Throughout the game, you'll have the ability to switch between Ratchet and Rivet, but in terms of combat, they're identical. They share the same weapons and upgrades, which is a bit of a bummer, but the good part is each character has their separate personalities. One of my favorite things to do was to go to the Coliseum and fight waves of enemies. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is an absolute showcase for the PS5. It's beautiful and uses the DualSense and 3D audio perfectly. Graphically, this game is comparable to a Pixar movie, which is ridiculous to think about. I still remember back in the day when games looked all boxy. There are a plethora of unique weapons, and like Returnal, each feel and look different. It's a fairly linear game, but there are moments where it opens up and side missions become available. Just to give you a sense of how much I love this game, I platinumed it, and I'm not a trophy hunter. If you're looking for a fun, light-hearted game, something to just kick back and relax to and is not too long, you should definitely look into Ratchet & Clank. Now I know this is kind of cheating, but Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade did release in 2021, so I'd be a fool if I didn't put it on my list. Final Fantasy VII Remake is made by Square Enix, and you can get it both on PS4 and PS5, but if you want the DLC, that is unfortunately solely on the PS5. As the name implies, it's a remake of the 1997 game that released on PS1 and is considered by many the best Final Fantasy game. The game was so big that they had to split it on 3 different discs. Final Fantasy VII Remake is the first part of a multi-part series. We still don't know how many more parts there will be, but we can assume there will be 3. Just a heads up, I will be covering all things Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy XVI, so if you're into that kind of stuff, smack that subscribe button. The plot of this game is Shinra, a giant corporation, is using the planet's life force and turning it into Mako energy. In the process, they're killing the planet. You take control of Cloud, a former member of Shinra's elite soldier unit who is now working as a mercenary. He teams up with a resistance group called Avalanche, whose goal is to protect the planet. This game is extremely linear, which personally I don't mind, but there are some side missions and optional bosses. The battle system is pretty easy to pick up and works very well. The only part where it falls short is when you fight airborne enemies, but luckily there isn't too much of that. The game rewards you for swapping between your party members, which helps keep the combat fast-paced and engaging. Cloud wields a giant sword and is well balanced between using magic and close-quarter combat. Barrett is a long-distance gunner who has a gun for a hand. Aerith uses a staff and she's your healer/magic wielder. Lastly, Tifa is your glass cannon brawler who's good for racking up damage. The skill tree is actually linked to the weapon that you're using rather than the character, so depending on how many weapons you pick up will determine how many skill trees you require. Not only that, but each weapon has their own ability. In order to permanently unlock that ability, you have to use it X amount of times and then it becomes yours. If you want to use magic, summons, and various other combat abilities, you'll have to equip Materia. Materia is crystallized Mako. This is another game that I enjoyed so much that I platinumed it. It took me around 44 hours before I rolled credits, so keep that in mind if you want to pick this game up. As a bonus, I'm going to give you guys 2 more games. Those games are Resident Evil 8 and Lost Judgment. Now, I did not include these in my list because I haven't finished them yet, so it wouldn't be fair. But I recommend playing Judgment first, which is the first game, and then hop into Lost Judgment. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what are your top 5 games of 2021 are. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're always up to date with my videos, and I'll see you next time.